Hello from Jihad in the World, a podcast that explores the intersection of Western and Islamic cultures. I am Mark Silinsky of Kensington Security Consulting, where we bring education to national security. And in today's episode, we'll take another look at women we love. This will be Aayan Hirsi Ali, a woman who made an inspiring sojourn from the dusty streets of Somalia to become an American citizen and rally people from around the world to fight her fight, and that is to promote the rights of women in the Islamic world. But first, let's go to Nicholas Kristoff and update that. We had some interest in that, and I'm glad you're interested in this man. So am I. Well, it seems to me that he secured a place in the New York Times legacy of outrageous deception. Let's take a look. Now, Kristoff claimed that Israeli soldiers systematically and repeatedly tortured Palestinian captives, not to mention those sex-rage dogs. Quite a charge, yes? And the evidence to support such a damning indictment? Well, one of his main sources, the Committee to Protect Journalists, which Kristoff describes as, quote, a respected American organization, is dubious. Is it unbiased? Well, according to British reporter David Collier, the CPJ is hardly a credible source. The CPJ supplied Kristoff with a list of 6 journalists described as journalistic casualties of the Gaza war, unquote. The organization charged that Israel intentionally targeted journalists who were objectively covering the war. Kristoff treated this charge as fact and related it to his readership. And the names of those 6 journalists? Well, an investigative journalist discovered that they were indeed Hamas operatives. The CPJ pulled the names from its website, quote, without contemporaneous acknowledgement of error from the organization. They just yanked the names, according to the Free Beacon. And why were they pulled? Because all 6 were actually terror combatants. The 6 names CPJ deleted without mention included a member of the Hamas organization Jabalia Battalion, the terrorist combatant for Islamic Jihad, a commander in the Nasser Salah Al-Din Brigades, and 3 other known jihadist militants. A small mistake? I don't think so, Mr. Kristoff, but maybe there are other more credible sources to redeem the article. Well, there is the Euromed organization, European Mediterranean Organization, whose chairman is Richard Falk, whom I profiled in Cauldron of Terror. He is an ardent Marxist who despises Israel, and so does the founder of Euromed. And then there are charges that Israel trained dogs to rape Palestinian prisoners. Israel is likely to sue Kristoff for defamation, and I, for one, wishes it luck. I'll keep you posted as it comes. Now let's take a look at the halls of academia. Universities are vital to any society. They train tomorrow's leaders, some of whom craft foreign policy and report on international relations. Students listen to and learn from important personalities and role models. Sometimes their heroes stand at the podium or before the zoom lens. Let's take a look at Berkeley. A failed Palestinian car bomber released as part of the October 7th massacre hostage exchange spoke remotely to the University of California, Berkeley students last week. Isra Jabis, who was convicted of an attempted car bombing in Jerusalem in 2015, spoke by video to students in Berkeley Law School during the Palestinian Political Prisoners Day event, organized by Berkeley's Students for Justice in Palestine. Javas was released in November 2023. This was part of the ransom. So what did she do? Well, in 2015, she was convicted of attempting to ignite a gas tank in her car with flammable materials. The explosion wounded her and a police officer who stopped the car. She repeatedly yelled, Allahu Akbar during the incident. As for her video cast to Berkeley, at the University of California Law School, she apparently received standing ovations. We don't have to go abroad to hear praise for Islamic terrorists. Corinna Mullen, a political scientist, once arrested for leading anti-Israel protests that cost $3 million in damage to the City College of New York Harlem's campus, lauded Iran's, quote, phenomenal military for depleting U.S. weapons stockpiles in the Middle East, and urged support for its armed forces in the IRGC, quote, Iran has won this war. Its indigenous military industry has produced phenomenal results. Yeah, I don't know what journals and articles she's been reading, but I don't think that that's the case. I'd love to have you on the show to debate you. Consider yourself invited. Well, she claimed all this in an unhinged hour-and-a-half Islamic Revolution teaching she gave to the New York City chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. Quote, this is taking a huge toll on the capacity of the U.S. empire to impose its will. We need to bring down the empire by any means necessary, she raged. Well, what about the government of Iran? She defends it. Professor Mullen reportedly portrayed Iran's government as serving, her words, working class interests, and described the country's political struggle as a working class issue, Marxist to the end. She also expressed support for the IRGC, which she credited with protecting ordinary citizens and advancing Iran's national interest. Yeah, they do that a lot, or their perceived interests. Dr. Mullen, I would be glad to send you an autographed copy of my book about Iran. As far as that advances Iran's national interests, I'll tell you how they do that in the book. I go into detail about what those interests are, as well as how ordinary citizens are treated in Iran if they depart from the orthodoxy of the mullah's rule. To my listeners, do you know anything about this woman? She's was all over the news for about a week or so. So why do I keep talking about professors? And I hope you agree with me. It is so important. This is a war we are losing. This is the information warfare, the war of words. And it's so important. And I'm thankful that you're taking the time to listen to me, and I want to hear from you. Okay, before we go into our feature article, let's draw from the file cabinet, quote, if they don't at first concede, cry, cry again. Now, this illustrates the established pattern of grieve, concede, grieve, concede, grieve, concede. This is the European patter song of caving in to virtually every demand made by Muslims who complain about Islamophobia. We have featured that plastic pig of Padua that stands so proudly in a window of a Padua delicatessen. In fact, I'm going to make that shiny pig our Kensington mascot. Well, the pig and its owner, in a rare show of courage, refused to remove the pig because a Muslim village elder found it un-Islamic. Well, this was a show of force that was not seen in Denmark last week. Tobias Sloth, the founder of the Danish clothing brand Norse Projects, has apologized for comment about Islam on LinkedIn, responding to a question about what single thing in the world would you remove to make the earth a better place. He wrote, Islam. Well, This off-the-cuff remark sparked angry comments on the company's Instagram, where users called Norse Project racist. Racist? I wasn't aware that Islam was a race, were you? How is criticizing a religion racist? I wonder if there'd be complaints, the similar blizzard of complaints, if he said Christianity instead of Islam. So he apologized. So very, very sorry. But this is what he could have said. Now, bear with me. Quote, what he could have said. So you are offended. Well, so am I. But we are offended by different things. I am the leader of one of Europe's leading fashion houses. We cut our clothes to make women feel sexy, desired, because that's what women want. And in our opinion, that's what they deserve. Did you hear that? Sexy. Our business model celebrates the beauty of a woman's form. Feeling attractive is so important to so many women, and we think it's wonderful. If she wants to show off her curves, her legs, her beautiful hair, while walking in high heels or whatever, we help her do so through our clothing line. I have no time for your headscarves, which you impose on girls and women. In many countries, you wrap them up in bed sheets, they look like mummies, and beat them or call them names if they show their ankles or elbows. Okay, guys. Today you threaten to boycott me, and you may get something. But I am willing to take you on. I'm willing to take that loss because I have the resources to defend my company and my country in the International Court of Public Opinion. Also, many Europeans are tired of being bullied by the likes of you. It's looking bad for Europe. I know that. We're taking a lot of losses. Those of us of free spirits, those of us who celebrate the freedom and the beauty of women. But you have not won yet. So, my dear boycotters, the fight is on. Quote. Well, that's what he could have said. All right, let's move to our feature, and we go back to the Women We Love archives. This brilliant woman and lovely woman rose from the squalor of Somalia to become a leading advocate for women's rights in the Islamic world. Aayan Hirsi Ali was born in Somalia into a strict Muslim home and escaped the civil war there. One of her books, Nomad, recounts her journey from Saudi Arabia to Ethiopia, later to Kenya, and then 1992 to the Netherlands as a refugee seeking asylum to escape an arranged marriage. There she became an activist for democratic norms, which she found in very short supply in much of the Islamic world. Hirsi Ali, now she's 55, began her career in activism after joining the Dutch Parliament in 2003, and she became known for her strong advocacy of women's rights, particularly focusing on issues of genitalia mutilation, arranged marriages, and she promoted the integration of Muslim immigrants into European society, adopting liberal norms. Now, it is true that her political rise was accompanied by outspoken criticism of Islam. You know, all right. This criticism put her at odds with many of the multiculties, the multiculturalists, and the leftists, who are bound to the Islamists in this green-red alliance, green for Islam, red for communism. We talk about that quite a bit. So all was not well in Holland. Holland may not have been as liberal, deeply liberal, as she had hoped. So she and a colleague, Theo van Gogh, a distant relative of the artist, produced a quick documentary called Submission. In the show, they revealed to Europe the perils of being a woman and a free thinker in the world of Islam. This did not sit well with many of the country's Muslims, one of whom butchered van Gogh in Amsterdam street. The documentarian's last recorded words were, "Hey, we can talk about this." Well, these pleas for reasoned debates did not change the agenda of the assassin, who stabbed him repeatedly. So what happened to Aayan? She was placed under government protection, but many of her countrymen and women were indifferent to the Islamic threat and were tired of the commotions. I think many said, look, give them what they want. Grieve, concede. Well, she received some honors and speaking engagements, but many intellectuals did not know what to make of her. So she came to the United States, where initially she was warmly received from a pool of like-minded thinkers. The pool really wasn't that big. You'd find some of it on campuses, sometimes, yes. But many campuses, leftist organizations, women's organizations, were very uncomfortable about the fact that she focused in on Islam. Well, why not just on patriarchy or heterosexism? In any case, Brandeis University announced and then rescinded its decision to confer an honorary degree on her. This was after Muslim students, the Council on American Islamic Relations, and faculty complained about her Islamophobia. So they yanked the honor, declaring that her talks were contrary to Brandeis's values. Now let me read this statement. While it's vacuous and craven, in many ways it speaks volumes. Quote, she, Aayan Hirsi Ali, is a compelling public figure and advocate for women's rights. We respect and appreciate her work to protect and defend the rights of girls and women throughout the world. Good so far. That said, we cannot overlook certain of her past statements that are inconsistent with Brandeis University's core values, unquote. Well, and what were the values she violated? They didn't say, but they gave an honorary degree to Desmond Tutu, who referred to Jews as a peculiar people who can't ever hope to be judged by the same standards which they use for other people, unquote. To attack, quote, the Jewish lobby as too powerful and, quote, too scary. Arrogance, power, these are all classic stereotypes. In any case, things were not entirely easy for her, but she found a new life. Now she is part of, and has been part of, Stanford's Hoover Institute, and she met a man, a rare man, who's probably as intelligent as she is, and that is Sir Niall Ferguson, who also works there. They got married and have children, all of whom were baptized this year. She was looking for something, and she found a lot in Christianity, and so did her husband. And so now she is becoming very much of a deeply Christian woman. Quite a journey. She moved from an Islamic childhood to atheism in young adulthood to Christianity in middle age. Well, I certainly wish her well in her newfound spirituality. She and her husband have given so much to their new adopted country, the United States of America. This concludes this episode of Jihad in the West. Nothing in this recording represents the official view of the United States government. Until next week, on behalf of Kensington Security Consulting, out here.